My name is Venkat Marojo and I'm the CEO of Source Trace. So we basically have a platform to digitize agriculture value chain from all the way to, if you will, a seed to fork. So, and we also focus a lot on developing countries, so that's smallholder farmers. So we do have a lot of social purpose for this company. So we are exclusively working in developing economies. We so far impacted about 2 million farmers in 37 countries, out of which about 65% of our farmer base and our revenues come from African countries, though company is based in India. So with that, so treat this as a primer for traceability, why it is important and what's happening. Even though the traceability, people talk a lot, but it's still very nascent stages of adoption. And rightfully, the adoption rates are increasing because of the technological advancement, ubiquitous connectivity, where this little thing can take the computing power to remote areas, really revolutionized, and we could see a lot more activity in this space and a lot more accelerated adoption. So why traceability is important, right? 94% of the organizations surveyed by one of these Asian fiscal CIPOs said they lack transparency in food supply chain. Just about 30% of organizations have full visibility of goods coming in transit. And 79% believe that improved visibility would have material effect on cutting wastage. I mean, there's a lot of wastage. I mean, probably you know these numbers, right from the production to post-harvest. Many, throughout the value chain, there is a lot of waste, and this information sharing would definitely can eliminate that. Another important thing is the recalls. When you have a recall, one small thing happens somewhere, but you don't have really to contain it to a localized or a particular production area. You just try to pull everything off the shelves, which becomes very costly. So the food chains are becoming increasingly complex and global, and they don't know where it is coming, who are the actors. So this digitization and sharing of information between all the stakeholders can really eliminate these costly mistakes. And what is the other side of the coin for traceability? The increasingly conscious consumers are actually demanding, orange is just an example of food. People what really consumers are questioning, is it safe to eat? Where is it coming from? Who are the farmers? What kind of pesticides have been used? From socially conscious, is it deforestation occurring? I mean, these are all the real things that are, bad things in the value chains. Child labor, in a lot of value chains, this is, cocoa and cotton, we see a lot. So they want to really demand for not only, environmental and the societal issues, and this is one of the reasons also that traceability is becoming important. So what can give, if you are a producer, if you are a trader, if you are a retailer, basically you can give the trust and transparency to your customers, okay? And all the legal and sometimes compliance, you are doing certifications or exporting to countries that have stringent laws, and it will help comply with that and minimize. We talk about the recalls. And the reputation is, it's not only that particular incident, but if one incident happens, your reputation is at stake. And you can be, ahead of your customers because it's still a very nascent and early stages, and you get a better control for your internal processes. So, how does the traceability work in general? This is a very simple example. It could become a lot more complex. But the simplest example is your farmer farm and your harvest. So the harvest time, you go back from the seed to all the practices that took place for growing that harvest, including the seed, any pesticides or fertilizers or any occurrences and basically the sprayings that have been done, and then any certificate inspections. All this data we harness, and then at the time of the harvest, you can bring all that data to downstream activities or downstream players. For example, for the produce is, from the farm gate, you picked up at the farm gate or the collection center, then you went to a packers, transported to a processing plant. Depending on the produce crop, what is the final processing plant could be vastly different from crop to crop, product to product. And then the idea is to basically ship it out of this processing plant to retail with some kind of a QR code. And then you go back, this QR code, if you scan, you can give back the information. Of course, you don't want to give what is not relevant. The idea is, depending on the case by case, you're bringing up the relevant information to bear at that point. So that is essentially, the traceability involves at a very high level, and this could, some of the examples I can just walk you through to give you, we work with a small cooperative of hundreds, a couple hundred farmers who we work with very large agri-businesses as well as government agencies where hundreds of thousands of farmers also there, and the same solution skills. So we implemented, we have experience with 350 different crops, and especially traceability we implemented, like organic cotton to grains, fruits and vegetables, spices, flavors and fragrances, fisheries, and some of the vanilla type of flavors and perfumes. Okay. So this is the closest. Honestly, we have not worked with the wheat value chain, but we work with barley that comes closest to the wheat. We worked with rice, maize, which are similar crops. So basically, this is one of the examples we implemented in Ethiopia. It's a company that aggregates barley farmers and they supply. So as you can see, we have various steps that we basically collect information and then bring it to bear at the end of the production. So this is also involved. I mean, these value chains differ. Here we have aggregators, we have that manage the farmers, and we also do another important thing, which is a rise in adoption, especially in Africa, is the digital payments. That has a lot of social impact on the farmers. Basically, this is eliminating the errors, accuracy, improving the accuracy of the payments, as well as cutting down the time that is involved. Sometimes it could take 4 to 5 weeks, we are bringing it down to less than a week. So this is an example of fresh produce, where basically you have a procurement from the farm gate, and you normally by that time you would have harnessed all the information right from the planting and inspections, as well as the inputs that have been used. So this goes to the packers, there's grading, sorting, weighing, and then we print labels and put it on those small packets to bulk package. And this is an example of a retail store that has put a QR code where those lemons basically you could scan and get where that originated, farm, and what kind of certification. These are, some of them are organic certified. This is an example of a cotton. Basically, organic cotton, you go through all these internal inspections. Actually, this particular company we work with about 8,000 farmers. It's a farmer producer organization based out of India. So they have, they start with giving seeds, because in the organic cotton that is very important to have control on the seed. From that point, they give loan to the farmer, and then they basically track all the activities on the farm, and then including these organic internal inspections. And at the time of the harvest, basically they procure and bring it to a ginning mill, and then from the ginning mill they kind of mix some of the farmer lots, and then once the bales come out of a ginning mill, this is the most important thing here is this is the bales that come out of these guys sell it to a premium market in US and Europe. And their customers actually, by looking at the bales, they're able to find out all the farmers who produced, and their data is available to share with these brands. And some of the brands are very, very, branding and ethical and social production and social impact. So they basically, some of these guys published for the first time what is their farmer base that is producing and what is their socio-economic conditions. So this was a very big marketing and reputation building for them. But at the same time, for this FPO, it actually almost enabled a guaranteed market. These customers are hooked into their system and they have a guaranteed market and they're paying premium pricing to the farmers. So that's a type of social impact it could have. This is another example of British Foods based out of Chicago. They source spices from all over the world. We work with them in 5 countries, and like chili, sage, turmeric, cumin, they are sourcing. This is an example of a lot more data that they want, especially when you're sourcing the spices from developing economies to bring it to US. They are very stringent about the chemicals that are used. I mean, for better or worse, we do have a lot of chemicals available which are banned, but they are available in the market. Whether the farmer knows or not, sometimes they end up using this, and that is becoming a very costly affair. If they find out the shipment comes to all the way to the shore, it's a very late in the game. So one of the things is, if you can see all the dots there, they're collecting data in each of these steps. It's a pretty meticulous and a lot of data. And then once this is an example of a chili that goes out of the processing plant with a QR code, you're able to get information about all the farmers who produced it. And the other important thing is, if you see, this is not very detailed, I don't know how you can see, but each of the sprayings of the chemicals is also logged here. So it depending on your needs and the ability, you can collect a lot more data, or you collect very limited. So this is another example from Tanzania. We do this vanilla value chain. This is also, if you look at all these steps here, I don't want to go through, but it's a pretty detailed and very intensive data that this is one of our customer collects. And then that all comes to bear in the traceability at the end. This is a very, very detailed level. So then just another example of for Kenya government, we have done with the World Bank funding a national horticulture traceability system that basically now ability to track all the horticulture produce, fruits, vegetables and flowers that go out of the country can be traced. That helped. So this is their workflow. And then we also work with Uganda Ministry of Agriculture. We implemented on both sides. One is inputs, all the seed and agrochemicals that are basically distributed within the country or traceable, as well as the horticulture exports going out of Uganda are also traceable. So this is for agrochemical modules, seed, and then this is phytosanitary, is all the fruits, vegetables, and flowers. So that's last slide. I think we can talk about this. Then one last one is the Grain Marketing Board of Zimbabwe. We basically digitized. They have 87 marketing depots for grain procurement from the farmers. So we processed $250 million worth of payments to the farmers. This has basically reduced the payment cycle from 4 to 5 weeks to 1 week, as well as improved the accuracy of the payments. So that's the last slide I have. Thank you very much for your attention.